News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Hour number 3 of the program, Chris Crock Show. Okay, we're talking about, and we're going to get to beach horror. Couple drowned in a rip current at a Florida resort in front of their 6 children. Ouch. We'll talk about, have you seen scary situations where people almost drowned, or have you been rescued yourself or somebody you know? And what's your advice to avoiding drowning scenarios at sea and in lakes? Some of the stupid things maybe you see people doing that's like, dude, what are you doing? But first, we're talking about the 6th transgender mass shooting terrorism type case that has happened in 6 years. And considering they comprise like basically about around 0.5% of the population, that's a serious problem. It's a serious issue. And if you think there's a problem with the younger transgender people being radicalized, or maybe if you think it's kind of a mental illness thing where they need compassionate treatment instead of being fawned over and lauded, almost worshipped over it. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. All right, Ken in Arlington, what do you got on WBAP? Hello.
Hey, Chris, ain't there 7? What about that one in, was it Joel Osteen's church where she shot her baby or something like that?
Was she? I thought she was a Islamic type of a radical Islamic type who wrote some radical Islamic stuff on the barrel of her gun.
Yeah, but I thought she was transgender.
Oh, you know what? She may have been. That might be right, accurate too. I don't know for sure, but there was something about that that I now recall that was on the possibility there.
There might be 7. If it was a transgender.
And then also, how many things have been counted that we're not aware of too? I mean, I don't know.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay. Well, what do you think? Why do you think it's radicalization of young people to do violence that are transgender, or do you think it's something more that they might need mental illness and compassion instead of being fawned over and adulated for saying I'm transgender?
Well, I think they need acceptance, and I don't know if the parents accepted it or not, and that might be the problem. And then you're watching... Maybe she's getting false information from YouTube or something like that, and she was having thoughts of, okay, I did this transgenderism, I'm unhappy with it, and maybe she was seeking out help, a professional, and never got it.
Yeah, I don't know, but to me, this is somebody who needed mental health, not blessings and support.
Sure.
You say, they need somebody to support them. I mean, for example, do you think that means I have to support what they're doing if they're my child? Like, support them being, like, if my son's a boy and he says he's a girl, I have to accept that and support it, is what you're saying?
I think you might have to accept it, but there's also treatment. And I think that if you could accept it all day, but at the end of the day, if that person doesn't think, if that person just thinks that you're accepting it to accept it, then it might have other thoughts.
Is there anything wrong with my position, which is I love you, but you know that I don't agree with this, but I will always love you? And I will fight for you for your and I will never stop loving you. But I disagree with it, and it's not condemnation. You don't even say that. You just don't act like it. You just say I don't agree with that. That's not my values, but I love you, and I will never stop loving you. And you will always be my child, my daughter, my son, whoever whatever. I wouldn't play the game either of saying you're a man or woman. I'd do my best to not be mean about it, and I wouldn't be mean about it. I'd do my best to be as sensitive as I can without lying.
Well, I agree with that. I think accepting, whether it's a mom accepting the daughter or the son or the father, yes. But then if it does need help with, I don't want to say psychiatric therapy, but
yes. Dude, if you're struggling with am I a man or a woman, and you're a child, I would absolutely say, let's get you some help in a way that is not mean, rude, or offensive, but it doesn't support those values. Here's the thing. We've had parents who have struggled with these issues with their kids that are in our circle of friends or are my children's circle of friends. And it is almost impossible to get mental health in a place that is not celebrating and literally putting the number one thing as their gay, transgender stuff. It's like, what is this? That doesn't have anything to do with it. They're trying to say, well, you're accepted, and that's why you're here. That's a lie. You're not here because of that. You're here because you have some mental health issues. Just because you may be gay or because you might be transgender doesn't mean you're mentally ill. But if you're freaking out and you got problems and you have mental health stuff, then you need to get help. It doesn't mean you have to be worshipped and oh, you're gay. It should be part of a program. I don't want my child or anybody that, if they have my same values to be part of this stuff. And you can almost not find it. In fact, some places here in North Texas that used to have the values that I align with literally gave them up, threw them to the side, and literally have replaced it with the gay and trans stuff at the top. It's crazy. It's all over their websites and everything. I've seen in many places. It's hard. It's fast and few that don't do that, and the ones that don't are insanely booked up in this area. But there are ones out there. There are ones out there. And I'm telling you, the last thing I would do is say if my son thinks he's a girl, that you're a girl. But it would be, I love you, and I always love you. There would be no doubt in that child's mind of mine that I love them, and I wouldn't blink an eye. And if they were struggling, I'd tell them. I told my daughter before on issues, I will go to the gates of hell for you, and no one's going to hurt you if they got to get through me, and I promise you that. And I'll go bankrupt taking care of you. That's my message. But I don't agree with it. But I'm not going to be rude about it, and that's it.
I think all acceptance from the parents is the first step. And if it needs the second step, professional treatment, then you go down that road.
Yeah, well, I tell you, last but not least, is acceptance does not mean agreeing or going along with calling your son a daughter. Make sense?
Right.
Okay, good. That's what I was. Okay, thanks, brother. Appreciate it. That was my thing, too. It's not harming them, not disowning them. If you disown your child or if you turn your child away or say you're not my son or kick him out, you are literally a horrible parent. You are a freaking horrible parent. You are, I'll tell you what, you are in a bad way. Don't you ever talk to your son or your daughter that way. Don't you ever mistreat your son or daughter. Don't you ever talk to your grandchild that way or your niece or your nephew. Don't you ever. If you don't have something nice and loving to say about them, you don't have to don't agree with any of this. But if you can't uplift them and love them and just let them know, you know how my feelings are, but I'm going to tell you this, I love you and I will never stop. I'm always here for you. My door is open for you always. To be here to listen and support you. If you don't do that, if you have anything negative to say, don't freaking say it. Unless you want that kid to harm themselves or kill themselves or go do something else. Don't do it. If that happens, you need to know that you did everything you can to unequivocally let them know how much you love them, and that even though you don't agree with it, doesn't align with any of your values, you will never stop loving them, and you will always be there for them. That's it. And then, of course, my other message would be I'm going to take care of everything for psychological issues, but I'm going to tell you this right now. It's going to be and you don't have to say it, just I would only provide places that are with the values you have if you're paying for it. But don't say anything. And then talk to the therapist and say, hey, if you do this and they like you and it works, don't say anything about these things. Just have it imbued in the message without saying it directly. That's how it works. I'm telling you, that's the way to save your child. And you know what you got to do? You have to let go. This is so important what I'm telling you. You have to let go, and you have to accept the fact that maybe your daughter or your son will end up saying, I'm gay for the rest of their life and having a wife or a husband, whatever, or being transgender. But you have to know that that's your child and you'll always love them. That's all there is to it. And it's okay to have somebody in your family that is in your nuclear family, that's your child, your grandchild, and to love them, but just not support that. But you don't make that, you don't lecture them. I'm telling you. And by the way, this could also just mean for politics. The more you tell your son or your daughter how wrong they are, the more that you lecture them and hold them, to account, or try to have a captive audience with them and tell them why they're wrong on this or that. I do this for a living, and I have worked it down to a method with my kids. And my son listens to everything, and he is on board with me on 8 out of 10 things at least, probably 7 out of 10 things. And he'll always vote the way I vote. I think for the most part, he's a little more libertarian streak in me than I am. That's fine. That's close enough for me to be happy. But my daughter's not. She's still learning. And the thing I've realized is I share gently if she immediately has the eyes glazed, or if she says, Dad, I've encouraged her to say, Dad, I'm tired. That's fine. Or Dad, I'm not interested. Okay. and you stop immediately. Okay, you know why? Because your daughter's heart and your son's heart is more important than anything. Knowing their heart and knowing that they know and love your heart, having their heart is more than anything. That's more than anything. And you may never agree with your daughter's politics or your daughter's sexual preference or whatever, but there's a very good chance, as I said, that former head of the Johns Hopkins Center for Gender Dysphoria said, I forgot to tell you, he says basically if you love them and shepherd them and get them the help they need while they're a youth, while they're an adolescent, around 90% of them when they're 21, 22, 23 end up saying, you know what, I don't want to be transgender, I'm just going to be the way I am and I'm accepted with it. That's great. Here's what happens though. If you bastardize their bodies as a child and give them drugs or cut off their organs, when they get older, you have to live with the fact that you may have ruined their organs and they can never procreate again, and they may want to, and you may have ruined that. Stay the heck out of that and just love your child and support them and raise them in your values the best you can. That's it. That's my little thing. You want to contribute on the discussion? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. And we're going to get into coming up next. Oh, Mike in Frisco already has a story about drownings. Apparently he or somebody he knows has gone through. And a beach horror. As a couple drowns in a rip current in front of their 6 kids, they called 911 and watched their parents die and be attempted to be resuscitated. It was a rip current. And there's pretty simple ways to get around that if you're in that, by the way. You know about that? We'll talk about, you didn't know about that? This will be interesting. Coming up next on the Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Okay, horror at the beach. A Pennsylvania couple, 51 and 48, with their 6 kids at the Marriott north of West Palm Beach. And there was a red flag. Like, let me tell you something. When it's a yellow flag, we've been to Cancun twice. We've been to Jamaica. We've been to blah, blah, blah. And when there's a yellow flag, I'll go up to my waist. When there is a green flag, I'll go up to my breastises. Max. Breastises max. I always want to be touching the sand. I swim very well. I took swimming lessons for years, even though I hated it. My mom forced me. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, even though I hated it. The kids were trying to shout at them to swim parallel. That's the way to get out of a rip current. You know that? Number one, if you're getting yanked out to sea, like, oh my gosh, immediately calm down. Otherwise, you're going to drown. First thing you do is relax. Freak out for a split second and go, wait, I don't want to die. Calm down. And then swim parallel to the shore, which means left or right. Don't swim against the current. Don't swim with the current, because unless you want to go out way out there. So you swim parallel to the beach. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just look it up online. That's literally it. One woman said that her child got pulled out, and the whole family did. And I'm a great swimmer, but my entire family almost drowned. Found my son a mile down the beach. As he swam parallel, I thought I lost him. A mile away. Doesn't matter. He's alive, right? Amen. Okay, Mike in Frisco. Hi. Yeah, WBAP. Hi, Mike.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Welcome.
Yeah, I drowned when I was 7 years old. My father was in the Air Force. We were stationed in Naples, Italy. We were leaving Naples to come back to the United States. Oh. And we were at a pool, and I wasn't a strong swimmer. I was 7 years old, and I remember this vividly. I'm playing ball with some other kid in the pool. We're throwing this ball to each other, and he throws the ball, and it goes past my head. And my parents told me, don't go to the deep side, stay in the shallow end. But I went to get the ball, and I took this gulp of water, and I just blacked out. And the next thing I remember is I'm on the side of the pool, and some lady is pumping my chest.
Oh, my gosh.
And there's all these people around me, and I look up, and all I see is these people and this woman pumping my chest, and I'm spitting out water. I'm spitting out water.
How old are you again?
7.
Oh, my gosh.
And I remember it vividly. And and I've seen many movies and TV shows since then, and every time I've seen somebody drowning, it's very violent. But for me, it was actually kind of peaceful.
I want to
ask
you.
Just kind of like I blacked out.
I want to ask you about this because do you know what the sound of a kid drowning is? I got it right here, actually. I have it. No, I actually have some audio of it. Ready? This is what it sounds like when a child drowns. You need to know this sound. I'm being serious because the summer's here. People are going to start drowning. I'm being serious. This is what it sounds like. Just be quiet for a minute, Mike, okay? I'm going to play it right now. That's what it sounds like when a child drowns. You don't hear anything.
No, I didn't.
That's exactly, you're exactly right, my friend.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. You will never hear a thing when your child drowns. You will hear nothing. You'll just see them at the bottom of the pool, dead or almost dead.
And it wasn't violent for me. It was just kind of like I blacked out.
Yep.
And then I wake up and some lady's pumping my chest and I'm coughing.
Yep.
I'm spitting out water.
It is a lie and a myth that it's violent or it's loud. There's nothing here. If you hear noises, they're not drowning. And I looked it up because if you drowned, it doesn't mean you died. I was like, wait, does that mean you're dead? I looked it up. Nope, just means you drowned. You don't have to die to drown. So you're accurate, my friend, and I'm grateful that you're alive, and I'm grateful you shared that story. Did you know how to handle the rip current like that?
No, and here's the funny thing. I was never afraid of water after that. My mother was a big swinger. A swimmer.
Whoa! Sir, this is a family program.
No.
Sir!
She was a big swimmer.
G-rated, sir.
We lived in Mississippi and California, and I used to go swimming in the ocean all the time with her. It was funny because after that, I still wasn't afraid of the water.
You're not a swing. You're not a swinger too now, are you? Please tell me. All right, we don't accept those things, sir. We have to send you to a camp. All right, thank you very much. All right,
thank you.
I have to send you to an ultra conservative camp. I'll hook you up with. You get a little shocked and everything, but it's okay. All right. When you go towards somebody else that's not your wife, the picture of somebody else that's not your wife, you get zapped. When you go towards the picture of somebody that's when it's your wife, you get rewarded. All right? That's the kind of place I'm going to send you to, sir. Okay, coming up next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Two big ones to do that are going to be fun, and great story. First, we're going to do the police in Allen are nailing people on the highways. And I'm going to talk about what the best excuses are that you've used ever to get you out of a ticket. And I'll share mine. And how much over the limit do you tend to go on the highways? We'll talk about that too. All that next. Chris Crock Show, 8:20 a.m. And cops can call in and tell us what works, what doesn't work, what really doesn't work that makes you mad. We have that cloak of anonymity for our officers. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. No swingers, please. No swingers. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. That's exactly right. Make it a preset. Okay, so this is a great little story here. North Texas police actively targeting speeding on major highways, from NBC5. Allen police are doing some serious stings on traffic and speeding. And I don't mind that at all, especially when you and I are like really annoyed or angry or frustrated with people driving like wild idiots. I especially see it on Central Expressway after my show at night because these people are insane with that. They have small wieners, which means they have, when I came into the show tonight, there was some show going on right now at the AAC, and some loser with a very tiny wiener was revving up his very loud car. It had like one of those stupid things to get attention. The louder your car is, just, the smaller your wiener. That's a fact. Okay? I've researched it. Louder the car, smaller your wiener. You got to make up for it somehow. Oh, look at my car. Listen to me. Yes, Producer Garrett. Yes, if you drive a Mini Cooper and your car is quiet, you probably... I can't say it on a family program. We just had a swinger call in. I'm really trying to watch out here, I'm trying to watch out on the show with our family values. Okay? It's, late Friday night. Kids huddling around the radio listening for their secret Orphan Annie decoder ring. key code or whatever. All right. Allen Police, they're getting people on 121 Sam Rayburn. Also, I think on Central Expressway. Look at this. Oklahoma person going 87, but that's only 17 over. Don't you think that's, 17 over is fair, but it's to me, it's almost borderline, right? Don't you agree on the highway? 87? I mean, it's not it's close. It's fine. It's fine, but leave them alone if they're going under 85. Fair enough? Okay. The fastest I've ever seen, says one of the cops, 130. We've had accidents where people are going 150 or over 150. Okay, those people need to go to jail for reckless driving. So they're tagging and bagging all over the place. 327 stops in May. Holy wow. 182 in early June so far. They're paying overtime, but here's what they said, though. This is in conjunction with Collin County Sheriffs. But here's the thing. Here's why it's okay. They're doing overtime. They're paying like really good overtime, but they're using the fees they get from the tickets to pay for it. I have no problem with that. My only wish is don't tag them and bag them unless they're going 16 and over or 15 and over. 15 is almost close to you. Go to 16 and over, please. They probably are. 'Cause when you see them tagging and bagging on the highways, you know what happens. They're not looking for you going 15 or 14. And by the way, I want to hear what you think is acceptable. What do you think you can drive without getting a ticket at as well? But the big one I want to ask you is, what's the best excuse you ever got that got you out of a ticket? What's the best excuse that you've used that has ever gotten you out of a ticket, okay? Best excuse that got you out of a ticket. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. When I was a kid, getting a lot of tickets, 16, 17, 18, 19, stupidity, right? Which is why the insurance is so expensive up till, 24? I don't know what it is for guys. Girls is a lot cheaper. My daughter's pays a lot less than my son. Poor guy. Poor fella. Anyway, what worked for me was, oh my gosh, like I was in the process of getting a ticket and the guy comes back and I said, you know what? I didn't tell you this. My father's retired. Police, and he worked in another federal capacity that was definitely along the same lines, but even more awesome, that I'm very proud of him. He's retired and everything now, but I said my father is retired Chicago police, and especially if you're in the area, it really helps, right? That you're actually in that area, like I was when I got pulled over, and he then went on to a really neat federal position. And I mentioned that, and the guy's like, "Oh, you should have told me." And he's like, "Just slow down, dude." I was like, "Wow." I'm like, well, Chris, all these times you got tickets, and I know how to use it. You don't use it in a way that's a jerk. Because if you do that, then you're going to really get nailed, and you should. So you got to just be like, oh, for what it's worth, my dad or so-and-so's a police officer, and if you can extend something on that, great. If not, I understand. You just tell them gently. None of this crap, though. No attitude, no nothing. Guess what else, too? You do not, I repeat, you do not ever admit to what your speed is. It's not that you're lying or you're being a jerk, but when they say to you, what do they say? What's the first thing they always say to you? Go ahead. That's exactly right, Producer Garrett. Sir, do you know how fast you were going? You know what you say? I don't know, no. And then when they say you were going this, you go, oh my gosh. That's what you do. You're not lying because you don't want to lie. You're not being a jerk. You're pleading ignorance. So number one, you're not like, yeah, then like, okay, well, he knew it. I'm nailing him. That's kind of, to me, that's it. It doesn't mean you're going to get off, but that's the number one way for me. Cops, what is the worst things you ever heard somebody say? If you want to share that too. I'm trying to get out of a ticket. You'll have cloak of anonymity. You can make a pseudonym up, or wherever you're calling from. You can say you're calling from another town or whatever, another county. I don't care. Just what are the worst excuses? What are the best excuses for getting out of a ticket? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. So, if my uncle, my nuclear family has cops, and that's a different situation as far as I'm concerned. If it's my uncle, that's nothing. Unless he's in the area, and if he is, you got to be real careful. You can never, ever try to used it in a way that's like, well, screw you, dude. Great. And just because you have a connection that's direct doesn't mean anything's going to come of it. They might say, well, that's great. Slow down. Here's your ticket. So be it. My goal is to let them know, and then whatever happens, happens. And then the other thing is, too, of course, I'll try to work in. I got to hurry up. I got to show. A state trooper. I got nailed once coming in, like an hour and a half for the show. This is like 8 years ago. I told you the story on the air when it happened. I said, "I'm sorry. I got a live broadcast. I'm on the air, and I'm trying to hurry up there." And he's like, "Well," I said, "My producer's waiting for me." He says, "Well, your producers are going to be real worried if you don't show up because you got killed in a crash." I'm like, "Ah!" So it was a state trooper on the tollway, Dallas North Tollway, and he came back. He wrote me a warning. I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're amazing. Thank you." And I slowed down for like a year. I really did, but then I went back up to my bad ways. Although I do try to stay. I try to stay when I got my head and my shoulders properly, 15 over at the max. On the tollway though, I'm since I got nailed that one time, I'm like, I ain't going more than 10 over because they're not going to pull you over for 10 over. If they do, they're being rude, in my humble opinion. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. What's the best excuse you've ever used to get out of a ticket? And by all means, what are the worst ones you've heard over the years? Look at this. Some of the people they've nailed. An Alabama license plate going 92 on 121, 22 over the limit. Nail them. Each hour of overtime is $100, but each citation carries a fine of $200 an hour. So there you go, paying for itself to keep you safe. The number one reason for crashes and death is speeding. You cannot react, and I have to tell myself that constantly, Chris. You cannot react. Tell myself, you cannot react in time. You cannot do what you normally can do to avoid an accident if you're going too fast. Slow the bleep down, Chris. I tell myself. Okay, do we want to talk to James next or now? Okay, James in North Dallas. Your son got a ticket. I cannot wait to hear what he has to say. I'll give you some more examples of what they're doing to nail folks, and I want to hear from you as well. What's the best excuse you've ever used to get out of a ticket? What are some of the worst ones you've ever heard? 800-288-WBAP. Also coming up next, a very amazing, sweet, awesome story. A family of Taekwondo instructors comes to the rescue of a person in a very serious terrorizing crime. They came to the rescue and helped save somebody. Next. Okay, y'all. Let's. We're talking about the best excuses to get out of a ticket, and where do you think they should kind of leave us alone at some point when it comes to how many miles per hour over? Worst and best excuses for getting out of a ticket. All right, 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Okay, James in North Dallas. Hello, James. You're on BAP. Hello, James.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I want to bring up my nephew. He's a college student. His name is Ryan, and he is based in California near San Jose, but he's going to Arizona State University.
Okay, ASU.
And my sister bought him and his sister, because they're twins, they're going to ASU together, bought him each a car. And he souped it up a little bit with a spoil on the back, some tinted windows and stuff. And he had gotten pulled over in Arizona, maybe not for Arizona's tint laws, but he got pulled over about 3 days before what I'm going to tell you here for the windows as a warning. But on this one day in February, he was out on the street and he was driving through, this road that's got lights on it and so on. And another Mustang pulled up alongside of him, I guess. At some point.
Here we go.
And so they looked at each other, whatever, and they, probably punched it a little bit for less than half a block. And so there was a cop, I guess, that was following him and pulled over my nephew about 3 or 4 blocks later, but not the other driver of the other car. But my nephew's car had out-of-state plates in California. He pulled him over. And, he started putting words in his mouth, like you say, don't say anything. He said, how fast were you driving? And so he said, well, I think around 45. And the speed limit on that street was 40, okay? So I'm guessing he was probably going around 35, and he punched it up to about 45, and that's what was put on the citation. And I'm like, oh my God, a citation for 45 and a 40? That's crazy.
Yes.
And then the officer,
but you don't give him a number. You say, I'm not sure, even if you do know. Yeah.
Yeah. So then the officers say, let me see your registration. Well, there was 2 in the glove box. The car is brand new, less than 2 years old, and the officers accused him of having out of registration or void registration, that his registration wasn't valid. And that's a little bit hard to believe when the car is under 2 years old and there's 2 of them in the glove box, right?
Right.
So the officers were trying to rattle him, I think.
Right.
And they were picking on a 19-year-old kid who drove less than half a block, and the police officer even said he followed him for the next 3 or 4 blocks, and he didn't weave, he didn't race through any light, didn't weave through any traffic, and yet they're charging him with racing and exhibition of speed, which is a Class 1 misdemeanor, like on the level of a DWI. Is what they're charging him for being 5 miles an hour over the speed limit.
Well, they probably are charging it to him because he juiced it up and was kind of racing with them a little bit. I'm not excusing it. I mean, you have to be there to kind of experience it all, but
the point that is a good discussion is exhibition of speed has been written about all over the web is overly broad and burdensome, because they can go anywhere from, let's say, a simple assault to murder. And they're charging everybody at the murder level for racing without looking at a measured response for what they see happen.
Honestly, if somebody's racing, I have no care about the rest. I'm like, well, don't race.
Yeah, but what is racing?
Racing is somebody coming up next to you and you're competing with the speed on the road, something of that nature.
20 yards racing enough to
I don't want to see any of it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know every detail, but I understand what you're saying, my friend, and I'm glad you told the story.
Okay.
Obviously, the young man did learn.
Throw it out there because it really can hurt somebody's life, or someone who goes 20, 30 yards. And to me, racing endangers other people's lives. And so the question has to be, when you weave through traffic, when you race through lights, yes, you're endangering people's lives. And you know what? When the lawyer there in plea bargaining, he wanted to the lawyer for the defense of my nephew tried to get it lowered to reckless driving or high criminal speed.
This is in California.
Reckless driving is 20 miles an hour or more over the speed limit.
This is in California.
So, that's in Arizona.
Oh, Arizona. I'm sorry. Yeah, I just basically would say if you're in another area, man, don't play around. Just don't race next time. I appreciate your call, James, and I wish him all the best. Family Taekwondo instructors. A family of Taekwondo instructors saves a woman from sexual assault. Happened in Houston. This is a real story. An entire family on a 4 p.m. a couple days ago, after the doors of his family-owned and operated Taekwondo studio opened for evening classes, mother, father, older sister, younger brother heard shrieks coming from a neighborhood business. At first, they thought it was somebody in the back of their place goofing around. Then they heard a piercing final scream that prompted the family into action. They opened a door that had been shut next door, so it was shut. It wasn't locked. They found a man on top of a young woman with his hands in inappropriate places, quote-unquote, as she attempted to fend him off. Father yanked the attacker away by his shirt, pinned him to the ground. Sister grabbed the girl, rushed her out of the room, while the man and his brother, or the man and his son, I guess, and his brother, helped subdue the attacker. It just happened so sudden. Says the man has been practicing Taekwondo for 16 years. It was all self-defense. The intruder was trying to run away, scratching, biting, anything he could do. The dad, a Taekwondo grandmaster. Okay, so the kids have been practicing for 16 years. Dad's a grandmaster. Dad's a badass. Held down the attacker for 10 minutes until law enforcement arrived. My dad is strong. He expected us to protect him. He has a lot of trust in us. Let me tell you something. This is an amazing family. Simon An. Okay? You don't know who's who. This is a family of Asian people. You don't know who's who. You don't know who's going to protect you, who's going to save you, who's going to be a person that means the difference of life or death. Respect everybody. Say thank you and hi and be pleasant to everybody, because you don't know who's got your back. A lot of them do, a lot of them don't.